closely at this port. Cranes are lifting containers, vehicles are crossing the yard, and cargo is moving toward its next ship. But many of the people controlling this operation are nowhere near the machines. On Singapore's western edge, Tuas Port is already operating while a much larger system grows around it. When the full project is completed, it is intended to become the world's largest fully automated container terminal. This is not simply a bigger harbour. It is Singapore's attempt to rebuild the logic of a port around automation, electrification, and data without stopping one of the world's busiest shipping hubs. Singapore handled a record 44.66 million standard containers in 2025, and most of those boxes were not staying in Singapore. Around 9 out of 10 were being transferred from one ship to another before continuing around the world. That makes connection speed extremely important. A container arriving from Europe may need to meet another vessel heading toward Australia or East Asia. A missed transfer means delay, storage, and additional cost. But Singapore's container operations have been spread across several terminals. Moving cargo between them can require extra road journeys. Tuas is designed to bring those operations together in one enormous location, reducing unnecessary transfers while creating space for future growth. It is important to separate the port that exists today from the port in the headlines. Tuas officially opened in 2022. By the end of 2025, it had 12 operational berths and had already handled more than 10 million containers since its inauguration. 4 more berths were scheduled to open during 2026, including a living laboratory for testing new port technology. The complete vision is much larger. Development will continue in phases into the 2040s. The finished port is planned to have 66 berths across 26 kilometers of waterfront, with capacity for 65 million containers each year. So this is not a futuristic concept waiting for a groundbreaking ceremony. It is a working port gradually expanding into the final design. The easiest way to understand the automation is to follow one container. A ship arrives beside the quay. A massive crane lifts the container from the vessel and places it onto a transfer platform. From there, an automated guided vehicle carries it across the terminal. The vehicle does not choose a route like a human driver. It follows instructions from a fleet management system that coordinates many machines at once. At the yard, an automated crane lifts the box into storage until the correct connecting ship is ready. Humans still supervise the operation, manage exceptions, and maintain the equipment. But they can do much of that from a control center rather than from inside every crane or vehicle. That is the real change. Automation is not one impressive robot. It is a chain of machines sharing timing, location, and instructions so that the gaps between each movement become smaller. That immediately raises a difficult question. What happens to the people who used to operate the machines directly? The honest answer is that some jobs change significantly. A crane specialist can remotely supervise several automated yard cranes instead of sitting inside one machine. Other roles shift toward maintenance, software, safety, and exception handling. This can remove workers from repetitive or hazardous locations, but it also raises the technical level of the job. That makes training essential. A fully automated terminal still needs people. It simply needs them in different places, with different skills. The success of Tuas will therefore depend on more than purchasing advanced equipment. It will depend on whether the workforce can move through the transition with it. Automation also creates an opportunity to remove diesel engines from the terminal yard. Tuas uses electrified cranes and automated guided vehicles. According to Singapore's Maritime and Port Authority, this equipment can reduce carbon emissions by about half compared with conventional diesel prime movers. Consolidating terminals at Tuas should also reduce the need to truck containers between separate ports. But this does not make global shipping carbon-free. The ships themselves still consume enormous amounts of fuel, and the electricity powering the port must still be generated. Tuas can make the landside operation cleaner and more efficient. It cannot solve shipping's entire climate problem on its own. There is another trade-off. The more connected the port becomes, the more its physical operation depends on software, sensors, and communications. A mechanical failure might stop one machine. A serious digital disruption could affect scheduling across the terminal. That does not mean Tuas is unsafe. It means cybersecurity and recovery planning become part of port safety. Singapore has launched a Maritime Cyber Monitoring Center and expanded international cooperation on port cybersecurity. The goal is not to pretend failures will never happen. It is to detect problems early and keep cargo moving when they do. The same principle applies beyond computers. Global shipping routes can be disrupted by conflict, weather, or congestion. A larger automated port creates more capacity, but resilience still depends on people being able to adapt when the original plan breaks. As Tuas expands, operations from Tanjong Pagar, Keppel, and Brani are expected to move west, followed much later by Pasir Panjang. This is not only a change in port technology, it is a change in Singapore's geography, freeing central waterfront land while concentrating maritime activity at Tuas. Tuas Port is not a people-free machine, and it is not finished yet. It is Singapore's long-term bet that a port can become larger, cleaner, and more predictable by allowing people and automated systems to do different parts of the job. The bigger question is whether this becomes the model that other ports decide to follow. Would you trust a highly automated port more? Or would you still prefer people directly controlling the machines? So there you have it. That's what it turns out to be. If this answered a question you didn't know you had, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you liked it, tap that like button. Turns out, it actually helps a lot.